I'm Catherine Meckling, Communications Director at Side, and I am here with Clelia Warburg-Peters, a PropTech-focused investor and former president of Warburg Realty, to talk about some of the trends she's seeing as we face a shifting market. Clelia, thanks for joining.
I'm so glad to be here.
One of the big things that everybody is talking about right now is, of course, the market shift that we are heading into. From your vantage point, in the venture capital space, what do you think is kind of coming down the pike in the next few months that's really going to impact agents?
We're seeing a big contraction in the residential real estate market. And we see that playing out through the multiples that the publicly traded companies in the space are getting right now. I actually think that people are overreacting, that what happened in 2021, where we saw more than 6 million transactions, that's the aberration, not the return to between 5 and 5.5. We've been in a period with a lot of growth, and I think people get complacent in their expectation of growth, and then they feel scared when the market cycles, as we know that it always cycles. Yes. But that, that's playing out in the public markets. And then on the venture side of the business, we're seeing exactly that same psychology play out, but vis-a-vis venture investments. So people are feeling much more anxious than they were in the past. They're much more focused on profitability. I think those two things are going to come together in a particular way for companies in the residential PropTech space.
Right now, there are more realtors, more agents, than there have been, I think, ever. We just hit a peak in 2021. It sounds like something that is happening in the venture capital space in terms of, really focusing on the companies that have a path to profitability might be happening on the agent side as well in terms of, do you expect that number to shrink as the market shifts?
Yeah, market mentality tends to be something of a blanket right now. So we see many of the same mental shifts taking place in the venture capital industry that we see taking place in the real estate industry right now. The possibilities for growth seemed almost infinite, and they were somewhat unhooked from the need to actually show profitability or to manage business in a way that felt rational. Sure. And I think you see that as much in the venture capital industry, where there wasn't as much pressure to prove the long-term viability of the model. And I think you have exactly the same thing with residential real estate agents. We have a lot of real estate agents who came into the market over the course of the past 5 years who have not actually had to prove the viability of their businesses in a period where they were really under pressure. There's that great Warren Buffett adage, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming without their shorts. And I think that adage is going to apply to many different parts of our industry in the next year or two.
And you mentioned that, you don't actually think that this is as scary as, maybe the news is making it out to be. For the people who are out there swimming with their shorts, what should the agents who are doing a lot of business, have been in it a long time, be doing to ensure that they can not just survive a market downturn, but actually capture additional market share during a time like this?
Well, it's true. I had mentioned that I think that the public markets are overreacting to this in the way that they're treating both brokerages and PropTech companies. And in terms of what agents should be doing right now, good agents, I think they should be doing many of the same things that they've always done, because the reason I think public markets are overreacting is that people don't buy or sell homes for reasons that are related to the macroeconomic environment. It's driven by much more fundamentally human desires. And I will actually say that that's one of the reasons why I have always been so bullish about real estate agents as part of this transaction. Because if this was a purely economically rational financial transaction, it could probably be managed online. This is not about data. This is about this incredibly fraught personal transaction for people.
Absolutely. And, these days, agents are expected to be so many different things. They're the, financial advisor, they're a chauffeur, they're a therapist, and especially with what's happening with the market, they're often expected to be kind of an economist and be able to take what's going on and especially what people are reading, which is often very overblown, are we headed for another 2008? Do you have any advice for how agents can play that role and be able to tell buyers and sellers, like, here's what you're reading, but here's, what that actually means for you?
I think that it's important to be honest about the fact that, like, we don't know. We don't know what's happening, but like, we do know some things, we know where the rate environment is today. We know what tools are available. And I think this is where being educated about what's available, even in terms of the new next generation financing tools, that I think for what is generally a small fee can offset some of these risks. Being honest with your client about, like, is this the right time for you to do this? And I will say, one of the things that I learned from my father, and I saw my father do with such integrity with his clients, was to actually say to them, don't buy it if you don't feel good about it. And what I also saw with my father is that sort of integrity, that sort of alignment is often the thing that helps get the client over the line.
Right.
Knowing that they can trust you to put their interests before yours actually allows you to refocus them if it is the right thing for them to do.
Right. And I imagine it's also, that's how you get that client as a client for life. That's how you get the referrals.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of talk about, as investment in real estate technology ramps up, is the agent going to remain central to the transaction moving forward? And then this year, there's been kind of a lot of turmoil in that space with Zillow Offers, with Open Door. I would love your take on that question of, is the agent going to remain central to the transaction, and maybe a bit about how some of the things that have happened this year play into that.
This is a highly emotional decision for most people. And I think what many people who thought it would be easy to disrupt the real estate agent did not understand is the multiple hats that an agent is playing in the midst of a transaction. And they are not just, there to connect an obvious A with an obvious B. They do all of the work to reassure, support, inform their clients as their clients are dealing with all of the emotion that they have about this transaction related to the asset that's often the most important thing, not just financially, but in terms of their feeling of emotional well-being and security in the world. So I think that there is almost no chance that the agent is going to disappear from the transaction.
Agents these days are bombarded with all the different new technology designed to solve their problem, the new must-have tool. I'm wondering, as an investor in the PropTech space, what should agents actually be focused on? What is noise and what really matters for their business?
To a certain degree, I think agents should think about technology as really being an extension of their own business strategy. For some people, like, being on Facebook is like totally not real not in alignment with who they are. But I do think that there are a few meta trends that people need to be aware of. One is that I think we're going to continue to see a lot of innovation and disruption around financing the residential real estate transaction. And I think that's going to take a few different forms. One is these different tools that help people either make cash offers or buy before they sell. And I believe that's going to be an increasingly important part of the transaction. So I would encourage everyone to at least make themselves aware of some of the different providers focused in that space. I also think there's going to be an increasing push around secondary services generally, mortgage, title, all of the services that go along with moving. In some situations, those are going to be solutions that are integrated with other platforms. And agents may want to think about whether a sort of integrated platform is a better solution for their customers. And then I do think there are always all of these next generation marketing tools focused on agents. And that's really the place where, above all, I think it's very specific to what your business is and how you want to approach your business.
There has been this longstanding idea that one of the benefits of aligning with a traditional brokerage is that the traditional brokerage has this brand name that is known across the country, and all the consumers will know and trust you because you work for a brokerage whose name is known everywhere. Do you see that trend as continuing?
You know, when I came into the industry almost 10 years ago, what I also saw was that we were in this period of real shifting power between brands, like large brands, and smaller influencers, creators, like small business owners. And I really had a question mark of how is that going to happen in this industry, which has always been made up of small business owners who I think have not necessarily fully embraced their role as small business owners. And I think that one of the key ways that we're seeing that shift take place is with brand, that individual agents, agent teams are really understanding that their brand is as important, if not more important, than their brokerage brand or platform. And they're able now to use all of the different tools that are available to all of us to really tell the story about who they are and how they operate.
It's much more about the agent than it is really about anything else.
Yeah, and I think that's an evolution that we have seen across the board in many different industries. In fact, it's been slow to come to the real estate industry, particularly given the fact that real estate agents have never enjoyed the benefits of being employees, right? Real estate agents have always been independent contractors, and there are some risks and nuisances that have to that are associated with that. But I think one of the real benefits is the ability to own your own destiny, own your own business, and then own your own brand in terms of how you connect with customers who are the customers who really feel connected with you. One additional thing that I will say about this is something I think we don't talk about enough in this industry is that this was one of the first industries in which we had not just one, but hundreds and thousands of women independently running their own businesses. It created enormous entrepreneurial opportunities for women. And I actually personally believe that's one of the reasons why it was taken less seriously for a long time as a career, because it was a disproportionately female career.
I like what you were saying about, real estate agents have always been small business owners, and now it's not that they're acting like it more, but they have the opportunity to really step into that role in a way that wasn't as common before.
Yeah, I think that maybe because there were, it was so disproportionately female, there was often a relationship between the brokerage and the individual agents where the brokerages still retained a lot of direction and control. Even though being an agent is being a small business owner, it always has been.
What are some of the new models in real estate that are really, truly changing the way the industry works?
So I think in terms of the residential real estate industry, the new models that may have the most impact kind of fall into a few different categories. The first is I think we're going to continue to see models focused on reducing friction in the transaction. And that can work in a few different ways. That can be iBuyers, where you're really choosing to value speed and certainty over maximizing the value for your home. Historically, there's been a lot of friction in the transaction, and we're going to see more and more tools to reduce that. I think the next is financing, but particularly as it relates to fractionalization or equity-based financing. So in most other major areas of the American economy where we have like big assets, you have both equity and debt financing available. And I do think that we will increasingly see equity-based financing available as an option for residential real estate. So that might mean that, if I want to buy a house, I'm willing to let someone make part of my down payment alongside me. and then they will own some proportional percent of my home and the upside in that home over time, but allow me to realize my dream of home ownership or to buy a bigger home. I think similarly, rent to own models. I think, all of these solutions really have to do with the fact that right now millennials are the most debt burdened generation we've had in the United States. And so they're going to need help in figuring out how they own their homes. And then the last is related to inventory. I do think that we're going to see new models, particularly related to how we construct and build homes, that focus on bringing more inventory to the market. This sounds funny, but I think having a whole new group of players who are pushing on regulation, which has been one of the major constraints related to inventory, could be helpful as well.
There's also been a lot of talk recently around disruption in the real estate industry. I'm curious, from your perspective, what are some new models in this space that are actually doing things completely differently?
So I do want to acknowledge that, I was an early investor in Side. I sit on the board of Side, and I made the investment. I chose to take the board seat because I had looked at hundreds and hundreds of different real estate investment opportunities, and Side was actually the first one at that time that I felt was a truly differentiated approach to the brokerage industry. They saw an opportunity to create a platform that would really focus on serving the needs of the most entrepreneurial agents, that would elevate them up, that would allow them to bring their own businesses to the market. I knew it was one of those, I just knew that this was what so many of the best agents in the country were looking for, and that I really wanted to be involved.
What excites you most about Side and Side's future going forward?
First, Side has an incredible team. And it's a team of people who came from outside the industry. And, that can sometimes mean that people have a certain type of arrogance, or that they want to tell people in the industry how things should work. But one of the things that's always been so beautiful about Side is the genuine desire to listen to agents and teams and create solutions that are the solutions that are best for them. I also think Side's model is a model that is so in alignment with where the industry is going and what many of the best agents need. I believe that many of the best agents today already really are running their own businesses, and Side allows them more freedom to do that and more of the feeling of ownership that I believe that, for many people, that's what is appropriate and they deserve. I think that Side is a platform that's really about creating more freedom in the industry. It's a platform that's about elevating, people who want to really be independent and run independent businesses. And, it's just so exciting to see so many incredible agents take the reins of their own business and drive it where they want to see it go. And it's so dynamic. It is thrilling to see both what Side is doing, but most significantly, what Side partners are doing in the market.